some of you, we've been doing this journey this year in this thing that I refer to as the calling. Now, some of you have been here the whole time and have been following. How many people have been following? Yeah, there might be one or two. Remember, for those of you that weren't here, the calling is something, it's not necessarily what is my purpose. That's what often happens when we talk about the calling. This goes way deeper than that, way deeper than that. I'm going to read something that I wrote about the calling. The calling is a longing for a deeper experience of self in one or more areas of your life. It may be asking you for something more or something less. It may ask you to learn something or let something go. It may require a big change or a small one. It may require a lot or a little. In truth, until you listen, you'll never know, because in truth, every single calling is different. They're all different. There is no one calling. There are several throughout our lives. And every single calling is different for every single person. But no matter what, there's always a calling. And the key is to learn how to listen. There is a calling going on right now for each and every one of you. It's happening right now. For some, there may be several callings going on. For some, there may only be one. For some, the calling may be loud, and for others, it may be very subtle. But regardless of how many or how loud they are, you are being called right now. The only question is, what are you doing about your calling? Are you listening to it, or are you ignoring it? So we started off the year with this idea of this thing we called the calling. And the calling had a few different parts to it. The first quarter, we talked about the idea of sacred listening. The second quarter, we talked about the idea of sacred discernment. This quarter, we're going to talk about what's called sacred action. And then finally, in the last quarter of this year, we're going to talk about sacred embodiment. So again, just as a quick review for those who aren't familiar with this, when we talked about this idea, we talked about sacred listening, and we talked about silence, the power of silence. And from the Heart-Centered Metaphysics book, I read the statement, the silence is often thought to be the most important subject of all the unity teachings. So silence might be kind of important. What do you think? Going into the silence. What is one of the spiritual tools that we talk about? Meditation. Now, meditation can look like a lot of different things for a lot of different folks. There isn't one way to meditate. Regardless, going into the silence is the key. Silence. Why? Everything that you want is right here. But you got to learn how to listen. It's a different voice than what's going on in here. The ego is going to tell you all kinds of stuff. The heart is a completely different operating system. And we talked about that in the first quarter, right? Fillmore said, all power has its birth in silence. And then he goes on to say, there's no exception to this rule in all evidence of life. Noise is a dying vibration of spent force. I love that. That's cool. It's the source of all creativity. It is both the means and the goal of the path to all spiritual attainment. So maybe, just maybe, you might want to think about, in terms of your own spiritual tool belt, incorporating silence. What do you think? Probably think about that. Would be one of the primary ones that I would think about incorporating. Then we talked about sacred discernment. Why is sacred discernment so important? Well, because sacred discernment is your ability to judge. And what happens when you start listening to the calling, then what happens? You got all these ideas that are coming at you, right? And the idea with sacred discernment is you sitting down and getting really quiet and spending time with, well, what exactly am I being told? And is it my ego that's telling me that, or is it my heart, or is it my spirit telling me that? Which one is it? And so we spent time talking about how do you learn how to discern. It's really super important. And that was, we talked about this idea of intuition. Intuition, so that we're able to recognize and discern divine guidance from simple human thought. Oh, so there's a difference. 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 So then we talked about the next piece of the puzzle is going to be sacred action. What is sacred action? Well, for me, my definition of sacred action is the action that's necessary in order to follow your calling, right? You have to understand something. Nothing happens unless what? You take action. It's just like me walking into the gym and going, wow, look at all of that. Do you think I'm going to get in shape if all I do is look at it? No. But you laugh, but the thing that's so crazy about it is, do you know how many times I talk to somebody and they're like, man, oh man, oh man, oh man, this is this situation. I really, really, really wished it would change. Awesome. What are you going to do about it? And it's like this stunned moment of, you mean God's not going to take care of it for me? No. As a general rule of thumb, do I believe in divine intervention? Occasionally. Do I think miracles happen? Of course I do. But I'm just telling you, in general, it's not a thing where you just say, here you go, God. Here's this big pile of whatever. You deal with it. That's not what happens. Normally, what happens when you start to play this little game that we're talking about is you start to go, oh, I'm going to listen to my calling. And then all of a sudden, you start to listen, oh, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? Oh, and then what? We start taking action. That's what makes happen. That's what causes it to be brought into reality is when you start taking action. Nothing will happen or change if you don't take any action. You can talk about it all day long. You can complain about it all day long. You can pray about it all day long. Nothing is going to happen until you start doing something about it. Why? Because of who and what you are. Let me just tell you how powerful you are and what's really going on. What's really going on is you're sitting here being this divine being. You are incredibly powerful. We just kind of forgot about it. When all of a sudden you start to play this game, do you know what you have behind you? You have a divine army that's ready, willing, and able to engage with you and do this dance, this powerful dance called your life, in whatever direction you want to have. But you know what? If you don't start taking action, guess what? You don't get the help. They're sitting there going, we're not lifting a finger until we see you move. Start moving. And I don't mean to be that blunt and that direct, but sometimes I have to be that blunt and that direct. Take action. Action is the thing, right? But, well, so in the Bible it says, thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, it's dead. What does that mean? Action, folks. You have to take action, right? What's Fillmore say about it? In making your own demonstrations, work for the conviction in your own heart that you are the child of God. Next, declare it in word and carry it out in the acts of your life. I don't see anything in that sentence that says sit back and relax and don't do anything. Do you? Am I missing something here? No, it's action. Action, 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 action. But you know what stops people dead in their tracks when it comes to this? Here's what happens, right? I got the calling. Yep, we're good. I got the discernment. Yep, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. But then guess what happens? The ego. Are you hearing me? The ego. The ego's trying to do what? The ego's trying to get you to stay the same way that you've always been. The ego loves you just where you're at. Wants you to stay there. Doesn't want you to move an inch. So then guess what the ego starts doing? It starts to whisper in your ear. It starts to say things like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how to go from where I'm at today to over here. I don't know how to do that. And then it whispers, it says, I don't know what to do. Oh my God, but I really, really, really want that thing, but I just don't know how to do it. And then guess what we do? What do? We believe it. You believe this crap. And then what do? Nothing. We do nothing. We do absolutely nothing, and it shuts us down. You see a lot of heads going, yep, that's it. Yes, I know. Been there, done that. And that's what happens, right? So everything winds up shutting down. And guess what we don't do? We don't go there. We sit right here because we're convinced we don't know how to do it, and we don't know what to do. Boom, we're done. Guess who wins? The ego. Guess what doesn't change? You. That's what happens. So, A couple of keys to maybe helping you along the way when it comes to this. Taking sacred action. You must trust the how will come. That's the mistake people make. They think they need to know, yeah, Mike, but I need to know how I'm going to get from here to there. No, you do not. No, you don't. The how will come. But guess what you got to do? You got to make a decision. You got to make a declaration, whatever you want to call it. You got to say, I'm going there. That's where I'm going. And then I'm going to start taking action. Even if I don't know what that action is, I'm going to start taking it one step at a time. How many people remember the Indiana Jones movie where he's on the cliff? He's on that big chasm, and he's got to get to the other side, otherwise he's going to get eaten up by all the bad guys. And he goes, oh, well, and there's nothing there. And he takes one step, and guess what happens? Whoosh, magic. The place for him to step appears. And then guess what? Then he takes another one, and then he takes another one, and then all of a sudden you see the whole path just opens up in front of him. Guess what doesn't happen if he doesn't take that first step? Nothing. You have to trust that the how will come once you start moving towards your goal, right? Second key, you must be just willing to start. Take consistent actions. Take little baby steps. Little baby steps. I don't know how to do this. I don't know. I think I'll call my buddy Scott. Hey, Scott, I'm planning on doing this. What do you think? Well, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, it's like Scott has an idea, or he might turn me on to something, or I'll be listening to the radio, or somehow, because of the fact that I took that one step, guess what's happening? I've got those whole, remember, that divine army that's standing behind me, all the angels, all the universe, and everything else is going like, ooh, he's moving. I guess what? We better support him just by taking itty-bitty, tiny steps. That's how it all starts, right? And then the third thing, relax and trust that the universe is going to take care of the rest. If you'll just breathe and quit telling yourself, I'm screwing it up. This isn't happening fast enough. Why isn't this coming quicker? Why can't I do this? How come I always don't make blah, diddy, blah, did, wah, 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 wah. And the ego's sitting there going, yes, let's keep him or her stuck. Let's start filling their heads with all the reasons that this thing that they so desperately want can't happen. And that's what happens, right? So I want to share with you, for me, this year, my puzzle pieces, because to me this is all puzzle pieces, right? It's kind of like what's happening is you're wanting this thing, and when you get over here, it's like the puzzle's complete, right? You figured it out, but most of the time we're over here when we first start, and we don't have the pieces to the puzzle. We can't see them. And so for me, what was my calling this year was, well, I turned 60, and as a result of it, my body obviously is changing, and yeah, everybody's laughing, like, no kidding, right? And so I noticed there was some things, and there was like this inner thing that said, Mike, for those of you that don't know, I'm a runner. For those of you that don't know, I run marathons, and I run a lot of them. That's really not a great idea in terms of longevity. It's just not. It's fun to go do a few of them, but I did a lot of them. And it's like the body's going like, hey, man, there might be a different way for doing this. And so I get this thing in my mind that says, hey, you might want to think about something other than running marathons. That's not a great long-term plan. So what happens? Okay, and I'm feeling this, and I'm starting to pay more and more attention to it, and then all of a sudden, what happens is I'm listening to a podcast, and all of a sudden, I hear this person by the name of Peter Attia. Peter Attia, anybody know Peter Attia or the name? A few of you. And he wrote this book called Outlive. By the way, for anybody who's interested in living a very highly functional physical existence well into your 60s, well into your 70s, well into your 80s, what we've been told about getting older is garbage. Absolute garbage. And there's stuff that you can do about living a very healthy and vibrant life well into your 80s, and in some cases your 90s, in some cases to your 100s. There's something we can do about it. We don't have to sit on the tracks and watch the train come down the tracks and roll us over. You can actually start doing very specific things. And all of a sudden he shows up, and I'm listening to that. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So then I start talking to my friends. I talk to Scott. Scott starts getting into it with me. Next thing you know, he references a book, Younger Next Year. Anybody read that one? Cool book. Very cool book. And what does it talk about? It talks about the idea that The one author who did the third publication of this book actually spent last year, guy's in his mid-80s, out in Aspen doing Black Diamond Hills. I'm telling you right now, if you've never stood on the top of a Black Diamond Hill, the thought of doing it is horrifying to people that don't know any better. 80-something years old, and he's able to go down Black Diamonds. Not a bad deal, right? So what starts to happen with all of this is my how. Remember? I was over here. Remember? I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to change what was going on, and I was being called to do it. So guess what? I'm over here, and all of a sudden, I took just a little step, baby step. And guess what's happening? My how is starting to show up. Did I know it back here? No, I didn't. So I just started looking at things. I'm starting to talk to people more and more and more and more and more things. I joined the Y. I'm going to go spend time with Tim. He's going to teach me how to do some yoga stuff. That doesn't happen if I stay here, folks. It doesn't happen, right? And now I'm doing all kinds of other crazy stuff, right? Point is, it's in the action. When you have something in your heart that's telling you, hey, it's time to move forward, it's time to do this thing, it's in the action. You will be given the how. You have to make a decision, and you have to say, that's where I'm going. And then you got to take the first step. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pay attention. Why? Because of who and what you are. Who are you? A divine child of God. You are connected to infinite intelligence. Infinite. And that's exactly what Fillmore's taught us. Fillmore's taught us that when we get quiet and we listen, what's going to happen is that's going to come down through us, and we'll be given ideas on what we need to do for whatever the heck's going on in our life. And I would just challenge you that that happens when you start playing with the stuff. It is. And I say playing because to me it should be fun. It should be laughter. There should be joy. All of the above should be a part of it. So let's recap. Sacred action is the action that's necessary in order to follow your calling. Nothing will happen or change if you don't take any action. The I don't know how and I don't know what to do are the things that will shut you down. And then the keys to sacred actions are trust your how will come, take consistent action, and last but not least, relax. So next week, we're going to dive into some of the metaphysical parts of sacred action. So we're going to have that conversation. I'm also seriously thinking about having some people, or maybe one or two people, come up here and talk about it, because guess what? We actually have people in this congregation right now that actually have had some huge callings in their lives, and they're in the process of changing right now. And again, it can look differently for everybody, but what I'm telling you is the stuff I'm talking about up here is real. This isn't fake. This isn't Mike just up here blabbering. It's really happening. What I'm going to say is if you're coming here, chances are there is a huge calling for some of you. Some it might be little, but there is a calling going on right now. And just understand, your soul is asking you to do this. It's asking for this. And all you have to do is say, yep, let's do it. Let's go. And then start taking action. Is this helpful? Good. I'm glad it's helpful. Because there's a lot that's going on in the world right now. Do you know how desperate how much you are needed? Do you know that? Yes, you, each and every one of you. Yes, 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 yes. All of you. You're all needed. We are all needed. Why? To hold space. For what? For what's going to happen. What's going to happen? We're turning into light. That's what's happening. And we all have our own part to play. All of us. Even little old you, who wants to just crawl away right now and say, leave me alone. Yes, you. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're powerful. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're anything less than that. You are the light of God incarnate into this body. And you're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful. And we are so lucky and so blessed to have you, each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for who and what you are, for what you're bringing to this world in your own unique way. This world would be less without you. Just know that. I love you. If I can do anything for you, please let me know. God bless. Namaste and Namaway. Hey, it's Reverend Mike here. I just wanted to stop for a moment before you get on with your day and thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It means the world to us, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience even better, please do not hesitate to reach out by going to our website. I also wanted to offer you the opportunity for us to get together and sit down so I could get to know you a little bit better and answer any questions that you have. I can either do that by either getting together in person, have a cup of coffee, or we can meet online via Zoom. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at michael@courage2thrive.com. And lastly, if you find these messages are helping you, we would be tremendously grateful if you'd consider donating to the center. The best and the easiest way to do that is simple. Just go to our website. Again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're doing well. God bless, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.